Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. I'm going to start while people are still walking in. This session is Green Jobs for the Future, and while people are still settling down, I'm going to just give the usual housekeeping announcements. Please make sure your phones are on silent, but feel free to tweet with the hashtag @EUGreenWeek. You can use the Slido app on your phone. The details are at the back of your badge. Just to say, we have one speaker who's going to make her opening presentation in French. So if you haven't got a headset, you've probably just about time to go and dash out now. We all know that there's a fast-changing job market. We all know that technology has changed the way we work and the type of jobs we do. But in the context of the Paris Agreement and push to create a circular economy, what will future jobs look like? To borrow a phrase from Obama's administration, how do you make white-collar and blue-collar jobs green-collar? And how big is the skills gap? So we have 4 experts from business, from recruitment and higher education who are going to share their ideas on how industry and education should respond. So let me introduce our panel. Right next to me, we have Stéphanie Leclerc. She's the Learning and Diversity Director from the Suez Group, when they have 80,000 employees around the world. Next to Stéphanie, we have Valérie Borrell-Estupina. She's the Director of Hydro Sciences at the Laboratoire Montpellier, University of Montpellier. Next to Brenda, we have Antoine Malia, and he works for the Free Movement of Workers and EURES portal at DG Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion at the European Commission. And last, at the end, we have Brenda King, who's president of the Sustainable Development Observatory from the European Economic and Social Committee. So to begin with, I'm going to ask Stéphanie Leclerc if you would like to go up to the podium and make some opening comments. And Stéphanie Leclerc's company, Suez, wants to play a leading role in what it calls the resource revolution by transforming its business, focusing on the circular economy and digital revolution.
Be here with you this afternoon. Okay, no, it's working. Fine. And to have the opportunity really to exchange with you, with the audience, with you, the audience, with the panel, and with a great variety of stakeholders. So it's a great opportunity for me and for the Suez Group. I'm here today, and I will answer your question, I think, during my little speech, really because I would like to share and illustrate how Suez is taking care, is dealing with the challenges raised by the circular economy in terms of skills and job, both with an internal perspective and an external perspective. And I would like to share with you now, at the beginning of my presentation, really a conviction. I'm really convinced that we won't do the resource revolution. We won't move towards a circular economy alone. And it's really true for a big company like Suez, like us. So before going deeper in the subject, just a few words about Suez. I'm not going to bother you too much with figures, but just a few. So Suez has more than 80,000 employees, as you just know. We are present in more than 70 countries, and our turnover is more than 14 million euros. And what do we do at Suez? We are designing and implementing innovative solutions to take off, in our opinion, the 4 main challenges regarding the circular economy, the resource revolution, which are developing access to resources, protecting resources, optimizing their use, and producing new resources. And by resources, we mean water and waste as well. So to come back to what I would like to share with you, I will start with the internal perspective, and I could we could say at Suez that we have more than 80,000 green jobs, or at least that we try, that we move, our jobs are becoming greener and greener as we move toward the circular economy. And it's true either for municipal clients, as us, the citizen, want more and more the circular economy to replace the old one. And it's true as well for industrial clients, with which we are doing more and more partnerships with them to take care of their resources and to better manage their resources. And we have just signed a partnership with L'Oréal to take care globally of their resource management. Internally as well, when we look at our skills gap, what I could say in terms of technical skills, we need to upgrade the skills of our employees, blue collars, white collars, towards more specific technical skills regarding the environmental field, the chemistry and so on, so very specific. And we develop training both in-house and with partners, so more and more, because we do not have a crystal ball, so we do it with external partners such as high schools, university, and we try to figure out with one another what skills need to be developed in terms of technical skills. We do face as well the digital revolution. We are like all of us, like other big companies, and it's both a question of technical skills and a question of mindset. And in our opinion, within Suez, we do believe that taking care of this digital transformation will help us to have a more greener jobs within the company, because we will use more efficiently, we will do more efficiently our businesses, such as the waste collection or the water optimization. And we will be offering in 2 months, so it will start in the summer, new skills. So we'll offer coding courses for employees, and in terms of mindset, we will foster courses such as design thinking, for example. So digital skills will need to be upgraded as well. And I will end up my internal perspective with some words about the soft skills, because for us it's very important as well. So we really do believe with the external environment changing very fast, with career moves becoming more and more complex, that the learning agility is really key. And that us, HR people, will need more and more to be able to detect, to identify this learning agility among our employees. And when I say that for the blue-collar jobs as well as the white-collar jobs. So learning agility and the ability to develop oneself is really key. And what we see as well within Suez, it's already happening, is that we need more and more to foster the entrepreneurial skills of our employees, because they are really part of the resource revolution, really from a value point of view, and they really want to take part to this resource and the circular economy, to this resource revolution and the circular economy, and to develop locally initiative in order to foster the circular economy and maybe to create jobs and businesses around it. So it was for the internal perspective. From a more external perspective, so with our stakeholders, I would like to share with you an initiative we have inside Suez, but really it's working with our stakeholders. You may know I'm going to give a French figure, but it's quite relevant. By 2030, the circular economy will have created more than 440,000 jobs. So we need to take part to this creation. And within Suez, we have La Maison pour rebondir, the house to rebound. It's about occupational integration. It has been created 5 years ago, and it's really the goal of the Maison pour rebondir is really to help people who are far away from the job market to find a job. And we have 3 missions within the Maison pour rebondir. The first one is really to help people to get a job within Suez. The second one is to get a job with our partners. And the third one, and I will focus on that one, is really to support, to foster the creation of jobs by following young entrepreneurs, for example, and as well to partner with social entrepreneurs which design innovative environmental services which in the end create green jobs. In terms of figures, in 5 years we have created more than 200 jobs, and 51 companies have been created through La Maison pour Rebondir. And a very concrete example with La Maison pour Rebondir, with social entrepreneurs, is the following. So in Bordeaux, we help an NGO which is collecting cooked oils from the restaurants. It's a huge market indeed, but it's not easy to collect the oil because you need to go to every restaurant. So what we did is that we say we partner with Les Détritivores, this is the name of the NGO, and we told them we are going to buy your oil at a fixed price for years so that you know what you will have in terms of revenues, and thus they were able to employ more people coming from who were far away from jobs. So it's creating green job and with a touch of social innovation with it. And to finish my speech, another example from an external perspective is a key partnership we have with TerraCycle. Maybe you know this company. We acquired 30% of its activity in Europe, and TerraCycle is really dealing with waste that were not before recyclable. And we did that, and there is one concrete example about this partnership in terms of results. So Procter & Gamble announced a few days ago that they were able now to produce shampoo bottles with beach plastics. And it was because of partnership between Suez and TerraCycle, of course, with the skills and the entrepreneurial skills of TerraCycle. So I will be more than happy to answer the question, but just to end up, I would like, as you know, I'm in charge of the Learning and Diversity Department for Suez, and for me, diversity is key. So in terms of conclusion, what I would like to share is that learning from differences is really a key competency. And by that I mean learning from each other, from different people, different organizations, being able to work with NGO, with big company, with government and so on, because as I said in the beginning, we won't be able to do this resource revolution alone. And very often the revolution begins at home, even for the resource revolution. So that's it. And just I would like to share a quote by an African proverb: "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together." So I wish us to go far together. Thank you.
Stephanie, thank you very much. Some food for thought there. Valérie, we're going to hear from you next. Valérie Borrales-Dupina. From a higher education perspective, what do you think is needed to address the green job skills gap? We'll wait for your presentation to come up, hopefully.
Yeah, I think it will come. Thank you very much. Just a little correction waiting. I'm not the director of the lab, but of the master degrees. It's not exactly the same thing. I will speak in French now, if there's no problem. Donc, je suis la directrice du...
So, as I said, I am the director of the Masters at the Montpellier University, which deals with water sciences, which is also working with other higher education bodies such as Agro-Paris-Tech and the Sup Agro at Montpellier and the Paul Valéry University. So we're trying to provide a pluridiscipline degree. I'm talking about real pluridiscipline, multidiscipline approach, because we're looking at health, we're looking at the contamination of health of water on health, on our resilience, on the economy, on science, on physical sciences. We're talking about this type of pluridisciplinary approach or multidisciplinary approach. That's what we're trying to teach our students in the Masters. Then in the Masters second second year, we have a specialization. So we can offer them to cover one of the 6 different courses that you have on the screen: water in the coastal zone, hydrology in the environment, water and agriculture, hydrology, risk and environment, contaminants, water and health, water and society. So we're maybe 4 large universities working together to establish this master's. But even having said that, in order to cover all of the fields required, we also have had to go along and rope in researchers and work with 3 different research labs, which are part of the IM2E, the Montpellier Institution for Water and the Environment, because that's where we have most of the researchers in water sciences in France. We're also going to be opening another course, which is Water Sciences and Management for a Changing World, which starts in 2018. Now, why are we doing that? Because this multidisciplinary approach is very good, but it's not enough. I think we have got to have interdisciplinary approach, and that's the training course, which is going to enable us to develop this interdisciplinary approach. So just to very quickly give you 4 examples, I'm not going to go into very much detail on this, but there's 4 examples, I think, which will show you exactly how we try to train these green students. First of all, we have cooperation between Montpellier and Barcelona, the 2 universities. We're working together on our master programs which focus on water. And we have suggested that we can train students who would then be specialists in the area of water sciences, but at the same time would also have a knowledge of many other disciplines which would enable them to respond to the particular needs that we're faced with in the Mediterranean. I talked about health, and that's part of it, the quality of water, the impact on the environment and on man, aquifers, plastic aquifers, which are very much present, and we need to work with that in our coastal area. We're looking at the risk of flooding, agriculture, resilience, fishing, all sorts of other areas are looked at as well. And we have teachers who are specialised in these areas, and they try to pass their knowledge on to the students. And to make sure that we really are properly multidisciplinary, we actually carry out a lot of field studies as well. I'll come back to that later on. Here again with Barcelona, but also with other partners. You can see the list of partners on the right. We work very closely on a capacity building and higher education project. This is a European project financed by Marema, which is also based in Montpellier. The idea behind this is to develop a master's which will look at the water resources and the environmental risks in African countries. So this is an area where there's a constant changing. The idea is not just that we send our teachers from the north to the south, that's an old idea, but to actually have mixed groups of teachers from the north and the south, the students coming from the north and south, with doctorate students, with engineers, and then setting up working groups, engineering groups, where we're looking at, for example, issues such as employability. How do we develop employability in those countries? Then also we might look at how the interface between the social economic partners, and we will also then have develop these field schools. So here, it's not just the students that are working, but also the students work very, very actively in these actual field schools. This is a proposal from Kemi and Czech, who are both students in the masters, and one of them is actually doing his master's thesis or his doctorate thesis. So they had a group of students from the north and from the south to meet together in Yaoundé in Cameroon this year it was. And the scientific question that was asked of them was, Yaoundé is a country which is undergoing a number of changes, in particular an urbanization. It's also at very great risk of flooding, which causes great harm, great damage, and impacts the population every year. This water is contaminated to boot. So what can we do? What can we do to actually help this city and help this region to develop in a different direction? The question was raised in September when the students were taken on for the programme. They knew that they were going to be leaving in February, so they have a couple of months beforehand to actually get information about the hydroclimatic situation and to set up numerical models and to establish their studies so that by the end of December they can say to us, well, look, this is what we're going to do when we have the 2 weeks with the North and South students coming together. This is what we have observed. This is what we want to work on. So they really have worked a lot beforehand before actually going out. Then once they get there, you'll see all the little dots on the map are stations that were set up in situ, thanks to the generosity of the French government who helped us to finance this type of work. But now we understand that the risk has got to be, we shouldn't be, the risk is that these instruments have got to be preserved, and we've got to sensibilise or make the population aware of the importance of these stations. And so we have colour-coded points so that the people in the country who go through who are there. We've actually made sure that the local population can actually go past these points on the river, and will provide the information to the students. So depending on the colour they see, we can see whether the river is high or low. Then finally, I'd like to look at my final slide, which is looking at Thomas Albertin, who was a student in the master's program. He was working on how we can increase awareness of the populations. And he went out to meet children who were 8 to 10 years old at schools, and he set up a game which is called Water at Stake, to actually make the children more aware of the importance of water. So what is water? What's at stake? How can it help us? How can it be How can it be harmed? So he was actually able to make the young children aware of the issues, and that's what we're doing to make our students greener. Thank you.
Brenda, would you like to make some comments? You can make it from there or go up to the podium, whichever you feel more comfortable. Yeah, okay. So Brenda, what kind of skills do you think we need more of if we're going to create more green jobs?
Well, oops. Sorry about this, I'm so clumsy, always. Right. What skills are needed? Well, there has been some research by Sinifport that said that more generic skills are needed for the green economy. That would include things like strategic planning and leadership, adaptability, transferability, systems analysis, risk analysis, coordination, and entrepreneurship. So they were saying that those are the types of skills that are needed to be able to extract the opportunities from green jobs.
Okay, please carry on.
Okay. Now, I'm Brenda King from the Economic and Social Committee. And when we talk about green jobs, we say that transitioning to green jobs entails a profound transformation and implies new business models, from selling products to providing services. It also entails a more sharing and collaborative economy. And I think this is something I thought that came across very much with Valerie's presentation. Measures to green the economy are already affecting the job market. In the short term, jobs are lost, especially in carbon-intensive sectors. Many existing jobs, particularly plumbers, electricians, metal workers, and construction workers, are transformed and redefined as day-to-day skill sets, working methods, and profiles are greened. New jobs are being created by restructuring key economic sectors such as energy, construction, transport, agriculture, and energy-intensive industries. These additional jobs are created at all skill levels and include local jobs and opportunities. Also, green jobs tend to be more labor-intensive than conventional sectors. However, these jobs need to be decent jobs, and by decent jobs, what I mean is safe working conditions, reasonable career prospects, adequate wages, etc. In the long term, innovation and the development of new technologies will create further opportunities for investment and growth. It is expected that jobs will be created in the research and development of low-carbon technologies. The result of this research will in turn generate new investment and further job creation in these fields. This virtuous circle is a clear example of the positive impact that innovation and technology change can have on economic growth and restructuring. So what are some of the key messages that we'd like to get across today? One, there's a need for coherent policies. Greening the economy is a multi-dimensional challenge and therefore must be addressed through cross-cutting measures that include economic, employment and skills development policies, along with policy for the environment, industrial development, innovation, and competitiveness. Coherent approaches to industrial, social, and environmental policies require active coordination between public authorities in this field. This can make it easier for employers, workers, and public authorities to identify efficient responses in terms of providing the skills needed in greening economies. Second is the need for proactive measures for a just transition. Such a shift to a green economy requires broad social support to be successful. Therefore, we need proactive measures for a just transition. Social equity, decent work, and human well-being must be enhanced. Those affected by the changes have to be adequately assisted, and the new opportunities created need to be shared by employers and workers and their organizations, other social actors, and communities. Otherwise, we will face increased populism and social unrest. Government assistance is needed for both enterprises and workers. Meaningful social dialogue should be essential to ease tensions and to arrive at an effective cost sharing and resource allocation. Our third message is the need for more investment in skills and lifelong learning. As we know, today in the EU, we already suffer from systematic weaknesses in its skills base, which has limited its productivity and competitiveness in today's economy and reduced its capacity to exploit the opportunity offered by green growth. Skills gap exists in a number of sectors, such as renewable energy, energy and resource efficiency, renovation of buildings, construction, environmental services, and manufacturing. These deficiencies in management skills and technical job-specific skills are a greater concern than the shortage of new green skills. Our fourth message is the key role of organized civil society. In the context of greening economies, social partners and other civil society organizations play a key role in terms of contributing to the decision-making process, raising awareness on the skilled needs, and improving the matching between curricula and the needs of the labor market. We believe that social partners are particularly well placed to offer insights into the direction of changing work and working requirements. They are involved in initiatives and actions aiming at identifying and anticipating competencies and qualifications needed at national, sector, and enterprise level. They act at national, sectorial, and enterprise level in order to develop tools to address specific needs at enterprise level, and I thought Stephanie's presentation gave some very concrete examples of this. So the transformation to sustainable society cannot and must not be imposed from above. It will only be successful if it's based on a broad support and active participation by the majority of businesses, local and regional authorities, and citizens. And our final point is that we must support enterprises. SMEs, including social enterprises, play an important role in the development of a more circular economy, as they are particularly active in the fields such as recycling, repair, and innovation. They also create jobs, many of them local. More support for such enterprises is needed. Employers who are active in labor-intensive sectors, we believe, should receive incentives. More research and innovation are needed to boost the competitiveness of EU industry. Public and private investment will be necessary to make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brenda, for an optimistic assessment there of the green job situation. Antoine Malia, you run a jobs portal which you oversee. So how could that facilitate green jobs?
Thanks, Anya. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, I run the mobility electronic services, we call them, for the European Union. And when I was asked to come here, I was a bit afraid at first because we do not have anything specific for green jobs. But then when I was looking a bit into our services, we're actually producing an EU-wide product which facilitates actually job seekers and employers and member states in order to be able to address any skills needs or any employment needs in this sector. What I'm going to do is, I only have very few slides, not more than 8 slides. I'll jump right into it and put a picture a bit on what the European Union has done last year in order to facilitate labor mobility. So, EURES is actually a program supported by a EURES regulation which came live last year, exactly a bit more than a year ago. And one of its objectives is to enhance what we call transparency on labor market information. What do we mean by transparency? At the moment, the EURES portal, based on an old regulation, only attracts job vacancies coming through the public employment services. The EURES regulation, in agreement with the member states, is much, much more ambitious than that. If you had to give it a figure, you could say it's 5 times as ambitious as the last one, because we need to gather from member states all the job vacancies, all the CVs, which currently we do not get. The EURES portal only gets what we call self-service CVs. So it's like you want to go and register on LinkedIn. The EURES portal offers an exact similar service. But we're going to ask member states to give us the CVs that are registered at the public employment services. Because in some member states, nearly in all of them, any vacancy and any CV has to be registered with the public employment services. Then there's the other dimension, though. They need to also supply us with a structured way of how we present labor market information. And that's going to be shared on the EURES portal. And so there is a system in order how we can collect that both electronically and also fed through the member states. In addition to job vacancies and CVs, we will also be collecting apprenticeships and traineeships and other opportunities which are available. And I will take you in a practical way. I will show you in the next couple of slides how this is going to work. The second most important item is when you want to move people from one member state to the other, you need to provide more services than just filling a CV or satisfying a job vacancy. You need to provide a lot of information on living and working conditions across countries. Things like language, apartment, where do I live, how do I pay my social security, something which you could say the private sector does not always address head-on. And this is what the EURES portal is doing through this regulation. This is a requirement. It's extremely popular. We get at least between 50 to 80,000 hits just on living and working conditions a month, and we churn around 10 to 20 million vacancies a year on the portal. And there's a steady increase due to the regulation coming into place. What the portal is doing as well, I will show you that within it, we've built what we called an ESCO taxonomy. ESCO stands for European Skills, Competencies, and Occupations. Basically, this taxonomy lists all the skills which have been agreed with more than 19 industry sectors. And so when I'm filling a CV or when an employer is specifying a vacancy, there is a standard way of how you collect that data. And our aim is that eventually this data is interchangeable with even private partners, which will join up with public employment services, in order for it to be interoperable even with private sectors. Something which is at a very low, there's a very low uptake of this at the moment in Europe. So this is where we're building these partnerships. And I'll show you how matching works on the portal. Of course, there is a network behind this, which is, there are approximately 1,000 EURES advisors across all Europe embedded within the public employment services. And so the whole network is supporting this program. And of course, different member states offer a different set of services. So we're enabling what we call a catalog of services for a user that once they go on the portal, they can see what's available. So this is what the EURES portal looks like. On the left, what you see under Explore Your European Potential, that's real-time information. We're already collecting some rudimentary information in terms of how many job vacancies there are, how many EURES advisors there are, how many CVs have been registered, and you log in today or tomorrow or the next day, you'll see these numbers changes because they are reflecting reality. There's still a long way to go because we're actually at the sort of implementation phase. And there is a strict deadline for this regulation. By May 2018, which is in a year's time, member states have to have their systems interoperable with the European Union's portal. I could say we are 45% there, but there's still a long way, and we have a strict program in order to get that going. As you can see on the portal, you can register as a job seeker, as an employer, and then you choose the services you want to avail yourselves of. There are other products within EURES. I will not go into detail due to the lack of time, but we are having a demo outside for anyone who wants to go and experiment with live data. Because we have Drop-in, which is a system which does not actually work directly with public employment services, but goes directly to the private sector to attract opportunities for young people. And we have something which I have one slide on here, is the European Online Job Days, which is a very sector-specific driven online and offline, you could call it a marketing and communication platform. But it allows people to organize events in member states targeting specific sectors, 1 sector, 2 sector, 3 sector, or more. But I'll show this in a minute. What can a job seeker do? They can search for a job from across all the European Union, including Switzerland, Norway, Liechtenstein, and so forth. You can search for youth opportunities, which is a targeted opportunity. You can create your online CV, create a skills passport, which is also sector-specific. And you can get information on what skills and careers are currently available, or there is a gap in a member state on this. This slide is worth 1,000 words. You really, to appreciate what's behind the portal, you really have to visit it. Otherwise, it's a bit hard for me to explain how much information there is over there. And all the portals we have online have what we call a direct 24-hour chat and help desk service. So if you have a question, you can go and talk directly online with a EURES advisor, or there is a help desk which you can call the number and they will speak to you in your own language. The same for employers. Any employers registered via the portal can search for candidates, search also based on specific skills in order to match, advertise their own jobs or list of jobs, manage opportunities, skills passport, and the same what basically a job seeker can do. It's the other part of the coin. The CV, if you look at the area where there is personal information, person presentation, work experience, education and training, those things can be edited separately, can be saved up to 10 different languages. You may encode it in your own language, but because of this taxonomy which we've built in, an employer who wants to, say, for instance, a Greek employer who wants to recruit somebody from Italy, if the CV is posted in Italy, the Greek employer can read it actually in Greek, because there is these standardized ways of presenting information. And that's why I said, the labor market information we're going to get has 2 sides. It's not only for the job seeker and the employer, but it's also for the decision maker to see, as we're churning all these vacancies and CVs, we're going to be able to say, okay, there's a skills gap in this area, which I see it's a common theme here to see, okay, where do we have a big need for green jobs, or what are the most needed skills in particular countries. You can publish also the CV in other standards, like what we call the EURES format. You can delete it, you can modify parts of it, you can leave it online for a specific period of time. You can hide it. It's a very versatile tool. In between this slide and the one before it, usually there are at least 15 where I explain how matching works. But in order to save you time, what you see there is actually, if you look at the top one, you have 10, and then you have 8.7 on 10, 8.5 on 10. So what happened, somebody filled in his or her occupation. And if you look at skills at the bottom, usually there, when you start typing your skill, the system starts prompting to you, what skill are you looking for? We find out that a lot of people do not know exactly what skills they have. You might find this a bit hard to understand, but what I mean is you might be looking for an engineering job, or you might be looking for a job in the forestry sector. And they might need skills which are related to total quality management. They might need actually skills related to green jobs. And the system starts prompting, according to what you're filling in, to suggest to you if you have those skills. It's a bit like a reminder for you to help you build your CV. And there, actually, the top one, where you can see number 10, this is somebody who has filled their CV, and there's a perfect match with the vacancy that an employer somewhere else is looking for. And in fact, you see, the green parts are where I've got a match, and the gray parts are where actually the portal is telling me, listen, you have a skill there. So if we take an example, you want to work in Belgium. So you selected Belgium, but you did not specify Brussels. And it might be that the system is telling you, listen, there are a lot of jobs in Brussels, and they might be good for you. So you see there is Brussels question mark. In your skills area, you forgot to mention perhaps installing equipment. And the system is asking you, maybe do you have the skill? And it tells you, okay, I will adjust, and yeah, I do have that skill, and you go back and you encode it. And as you can see, the system itself is kind of guiding you build a CV to make it matchable. Of course, the idea is to always increase your score. Huh? And the last slide is, we have a tool which is extremely popular amongst member states, and we're doing our best to fund it even further, because we get approximately between 24 to 32 events per year. And when you think of it, that's approximately 2 to 2.5 a month. And I'm running this with a team who's running 3 other portals. And we're trying to support this, because this has been popular precisely because you get employers who say, I only want to employ architects in this particular sector. And what we do, this tool, what it does is it allows job seekers and employers to come together online or offline or both, saving people a lot of time, because you immediately look at the CVs which you want to match with your particular vacancy, and then you schedule an appointment in the particular country which is holding that event. It's also helpful because we found out that a lot of people are seeking a very particular job in a particular sector, and because the portal, there's a plethora of vacancies, they might say, listen, if I go and have a face-to-face encounter with an employer, this is capable to help me. That's all at my end. The only point I would like to add is what we're seeing, yet we may not be, I do not have enough time to cover that, is big data and open data are playing a huge role in how we are gathering information in order to assess these skills needs. That's from an electronic point of view. And we still have barriers in member states because not all public employment services are looking at the way the recruitment market is functioning as much as somebody like LinkedIn or Google Jobs, for instance. And we're trying to give them that capability. And we found out that some member states, particularly Belgium, Denmark, the Netherlands, Germany, France also, have restructured their public employment services in order to add value in this area. Thanks very much, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much, Antoine. We've got about 15 minutes left, so anyone got any questions for the panel? Yes, there's one at the very back, and then I'll take several at the same time. So if you can get the microphone to the middle, the gentleman at the back go first, and if there are any more. All right, so the gentleman at the back. Please give me your name and...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, citizens. My name is Angelos Harlaftis, Epavos Advisors from the Eco Waves movement, as I told yesterday. And the question is, which our movement has raised for the last 2 years, and we are working on the European Trade Unions Institute, it's about the robotics. Are the robots, which are 5 to 7 million all around the world, apart from Europe, where we don't have a lot yet, going to contribute to the green jobs, and how this is going to be done? Because this is a very important issue for our progress and the competition with the other territories. Thank you very much.
Okay, there's a question in the front here.
Yes. Hello, I'm Daniel. My question is if this platform from the job is taking consideration of these degrees are you say, recognized in the different countries, because there are a lot of problems with some degrees that are not recognized also in the EU countries, European degrees that aren't recognized in another European countries. I think it's a very big problem for...
Okay, thank you for the question about qualifications there. Another question there, please. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Hello, my name's Martin Mayer. I'm from Unite the Union in the UK. I'm also on the Sustainable Development Observatory with Brenda King at the Economic and Social Committee. I think the real question is, whilst we can see a huge number of green jobs are already being created and will be in the future, will it be enough? Will it be enough to replace the jobs that we're going to lose in, you know, the dirty carbon fossil fuel energy producing companies, or indeed the companies, our heavy industry, which is you know, going to be made possibly unsustainable if they don't change their ways in which they emit their fossil fuels. Now, in the trade union movement, we're very concerned about this. We have a lot of members, a lot of very good jobs in the industries I'm talking about. We want to see a just transition so that these people are not left behind. I think that the question really is, can we really just leave this to the market to sort this out? We do need a really direct intervention by governments, by our public authorities, to ensure that there is a just transition, that people do find alternative jobs in the green industries and have the skills to match.
Okay, thank you. And I think there was just one more question. Has someone got a microphone? If not, we will start answering. Okay, so Stéphanie Clark, would you like to answer that question? Will green jobs be enough, do you think, to replace the jobs in this supposed dirty sector?
Okay, I do not have alone the answer. I think, as I said, that we won't do the resource revolution and we won't move towards more green job alone. So it's really a job we have to do with public authorities, with other companies, with NGOs, with social entrepreneurs, with everybody. And indeed, it's really about the transition. We have to manage that transition, and to do it, I will maybe give an example. I will switch to an event that occurs a few weeks ago in France. I'm not French, but I work in France, so I think I'm able to authorized to give it. It was about the French election, and there was a big discussion around the universal wage and how it could help the transition in such kind of job destruction in one way and job creation. So it was part of the campaign in France, and maybe it's one of the answers. And behind that, I think that when I say we have to move together, it's about as well changing the labor laws in the European Union, fostering the ability to change job and to. I'm not sure I'm quite clear, but it's really a collective answer we have to give.
Okay, thank you. Brenda King, I just wanted to ask you, would you like to comment on the just transition to green jobs, and also the role of robots? Is that going to provide green jobs?
Thank you very much for the questions. Actually, before I came here, we were in group meetings and we had a presentation, we had a bit of research done on the impact of digitalization and the on-demand economy on the labor market. And the point that Martin made is a good one, because there's a lot of data and research that estimates either what the job loss will be, or the proportion, of jobs, how many jobs will be there, but will be changed. But I haven't seen anything on how many jobs will be created. So I'm sure there are people working on this, but you're right. There's a lot of estimation on what part will be lost or total job will be lost, but very few estimation on the amount of jobs created, although it is believed, of course, that jobs will be created. But your question, will there be enough? We have to hope so. The bit about the just transition that you made also, and the parts of your jobs that are automated, when we look at, because my dad was an architect, and as a child I spent a lot of time on building sites. And so when we talk about, those skilled workers, the electricians, the plumbers, they're highly skilled, they work from project to project, they're well paid, but they tend to be quite autonomous. So I can imagine when you approach a highly skilled person and say to them, oh, you need to be trained to be upskilled, that has to be managed very carefully, because they see themselves as highly skilled already, and saying that you need to be upskilled because there are going to be green jobs, I think needs some managing. In terms of just transition, I mentioned it in my presentation, I agree with you 100%. Transitions never happen automatically. We do need policy input. When you think about the training that's been needed, even the infrastructure that you need to be put in place. If we're saying we're going to move to electric cars, for example, and if in 2040, 2050, we are all going to have electric cars, it means that petrol stations become redundant. And we need charging stations in place so that we can make that transition. And that doesn't happen automatically. That needs planning and it needs policy input.
Okay, thank you. There was one specifically for you, Antoine, about qualifications and whether they are relevant throughout Europe.
Yeah. What's happening actually is very interesting at the moment. There seems to be like a revolution in employment. And I think it came with the advent of social media, more accessibility to data. And a lot of competitors are gearing up, even joining up together. Just last week, Google is planning to launch, just in the US for now, a recruitment service, a recruitment portal where you could find jobs within a specific state. And it's partnering up with LinkedIn. And we're noticing that public employment services are recognizing that there is a huge shift. And they need to first either do the job themselves, which is quite heavy to carry, or secondly, they need to partner up with private recruitment services. And one of the projects one of the objectives of the regulation for EURES is precisely that they have to partner with private employment services in order to cover the entire market. As you said, Brenda, we try and treat everything as homogeneous sometimes, and it doesn't really work that way in Europe. And the second aspect which is happening at European level, we're also revising what we call the Europass framework. And in it, it's going to address this European qualification schema which you are talking about. And the problem we're facing sometimes is that you have policymakers who either look at the problem only from the employment point of view, or on the other side, the educational point of view, and they're not coming together. And what we're trying to do, and that's why we've put ESCO, the classification, within EURES, it's to ensure that the two roads hopefully meet, and we have a debate with the member states on this. So your concern is being addressed. I've seen because the Europass decision is not in yet, it's still being negotiated at Council and Parliament level. I've seen further progress in that, and I think once the skills and competencies and occupation qualifications are in place, this hopefully should fall in place too.
Thank you very much, Antoine. I'm just going to bring Valerie, just for 1 minute, and then we're going to have to wrap up.
Just to bring another element of answer to the question about robotics, I think we need robots. I've got an example in my presentation about the caustic aquifer. We will have a problem of quality of water, problem of flooding because of caustic aquifer. So we have to observe the process inside the caustic aquifer, and we cannot go there. So captors, smart captors, will go there. This is a way to use the robotics. But these captors may stay inside the aquifer, so they have to be green captors. So we have indirect jobs to create these green new captors that may stay in the nature. But this is one point. The other idea was that we need also low-cost captors. This is true, and participative society also. So robotics, yes, but not only.
Okay, on that note, I'd like to thank our panel because it is 3:30 and we run out of time. So Brenda, Antoine, Valerie and Stephanie, thank you very much, and thank you on behalf of DG Environment and the European Commission for coming. Thank you. Right, just to say, don't leave. At 3:30 we have the closing session, so please do stay just for the last half an hour of the day.
yours. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are approaching the final stage of the day of our Green Jobs Summit in Brussels. Over the past 2 days, you have heard about green jobs, about blue jobs, about sustainability, about the opportunities of the green economy. And you have also been discussing why we need them and how they can contribute to a more sustainable future for Europe. We have heard about the past trends, about the current trends, and about the opportunities for the future. And the exchanges we have had have been very stimulating. There have been many questions, many issues, so we are very encouraged also by the great participation, not only in quantity but also in quality, because we have had an amazing turnout in terms of all the people who have been participating. Now the time to close this second day has come, and I could not have wished for any better speakers for the concluding remarks of the day than the three persons whom I am going to invite to come up to the podium and to take a seat. First of all, Mr. Markus Bader, who is the Director General of Business Europe. Mrs. Tyson, Commissioner for Employment, Social Affairs, Skills and Labour Mobility. I think you should welcome them with some applause. And last but not least, Commissioner Carmen Uvela, as you know, Commissioner for Environment, Maritime Affairs and Fisheries. They have the responsibility of delivering the final remarks to close this second day. And I would like to invite first Mr. Markus Bader, Director General of Business Europe, to take the floor.
Well, thank you, Director General, thank you, Daniel. And let me say it's a pleasure to be on scene with you again. It has been a while. But I remember when you moved to DG Environment, you were rightly saying, if I look at the things which are at the plate, there's so much we will have to do with industry, and you were right. So thank you, and thank you for the invitation. Commissioner, dear Carmeno, Commissioner, of course, dear Marianne, it's a pleasure to be here, ladies and gentlemen. I think the whole week we have been talking about ways to promote green jobs, and this is important for all of us. And of course, it's very important to see what circular economy can do in this respect. And when I drove here, I had a quick look on the Green Week's website as well. And I think it's impressive to see that meanwhile the jobs which are generated via this route sum up to 4.2 million full-time jobs. So this is an impressive figure. I think it's even underestimated because I think it does not factor in all the indirect effects. For instance, to give you one example, the 1.2 million tons of steel produced each year for the production of wind turbines. So if you add all these indirect effects, I think the figures will be even more impressive. To underline very much, business is very much on board on this shift towards circular economy, and this is maybe not a surprise, but it is very important to underline it because we think this is and this will be a clear game changer. And it has a very important impact on jobs, as I was saying, and I would like to bring you an easy example on this. If you have 10,000 tons of waste, of course you can incinerate them or you can landfill them. Then it will, in average, create one job because most of it will be done differently. But you can also create 40 to 100 jobs if it is recycled, if it is because due to the job-intensive nature of disassembly, of inspection, of repair and refurbishment and reassembly, you can create many more jobs. Of course, from a business perspective, this alone would not be enough. Of course, we would be happy to create jobs, but it has to, sorry, it has also to make business sense. So why do we support it from the business side that strongly, beside the positive effect, that we want to contribute to more sustainability and to job creation? Well, the answer is easy, because the potential savings are significant. Waste prevention, eco-design, reuse, and similar measures can bring savings up to 600 billion euros, which equals close to 8% of annual turnover of EU companies. So therefore, it absolutely makes sense for business, and therefore it can be a win-win, and therefore we very much want to engage in this transformation. And as I say, it's win-win because it also makes the use of resources more sustainable and is driving job creation. Of course, we're not there. Of course, we need to completely rethink how we shape our economy and industry. And of course, this will not go overnight. And we think, of course, all stakeholders will have to engage in order to get this done. And if I look around, and I don't see a lot because, I mean, the light is so bright, but I had a look at the list, it's of course very often the same companies who are at the forefront. And this is a very good thing. And it's very important to have the front runners. At the same time, this is only the tip of the iceberg. Of course, to make this story pivotal, we will need to also have the more difficult conversations. We will have to understand the challenges of the resource-intensive industries. We will have to understand the challenge of the small and medium-sized enterprises, and we have to make sure that we don't only talk to Western European companies, Northern European companies, but also to Central Eastern European companies and Southern European companies to also understand their challenges. One thing Business Europe is doing to engage in this process is a platform, is an internet platform we are officially launching today, the EU Circular Economy Industry Platform, and can easily be found under www.circulary.eu, easily to be found. And the aim of this platform is to showcase practical examples what EU businesses are already doing in this respect, and how they are reducing the use of virgin resources and energy, how they change their production processes, how they redesign products in order to have better recycling, how many jobs, of course, are created by these processes. So to start with, we will start today with 40 examples already, but of course we are feeding in examples permanently, and we expect this to grow over the forthcoming months. We think the platform, the website is easily to navigate on. You can find examples via sectors, you can find examples via countries, and it's important that, of course, this is not only happening in one company, so therefore very often you will find examples which is combining a group of companies, because you need different partners to really find solutions. Of course, this platform is not only talking about examples we already have, it's also taking up challenges companies have, SMEs, industry, other companies might face. And in this case, the visitors of the homepage can also find the projects via the challenges they will be seeking for. And these challenges can be regulatory challenges, linked to upcoming policy initiatives, but can also be other challenges. To be clear, the website will not give answers, final answers to all challenges. I think this would be asking too much on the launch day. But we also want to link it to our timeline page, where we will come up with a number of events, bottom-up initiatives, and with the aim to give answers to the challenges which will be coming up. For example, next week on the 7th of June, together with Vice President Jyrki Katainen, we will have a big event, high-level business event in Business Europe premises to have this discussion with business and also with the member states and to go forward. But of course, it's also there to directly submit examples, and all interested companies can go on the page, submit your project, and submit examples to make this platform grow and to make it an accessible tool for everybody. And we think we need a dialogue with all stakeholders to really grasp the opportunities of this story, and we need to make sure that the breakthrough technologies are developed, and as we all know, this is what it's all about. And I think the question which has been asked over the last days and which we ask ourselves very much is, what do we have to do to make sure that these breakthrough technologies will be created in Europe and are created in Europe and can also be exploited in Europe, at least partially. To sum it up, we think circular economy can be a real job driver for Europe. We are fully on board on this, and we fully support it because we think it makes huge business sense, and we think that future consumption and production patterns are so complicated that we need to solve it with a new way of thinking. Second point, of course, policies need to be fit for purpose, which first means we need to apply the policies we have in an optimal way, but second is we'll have to have a close look on the barriers there still are, and also talk to a wide range of stakeholders, not only to the front runners, in order to address all the barriers and in order to get this thing on track. If we manage it right, and I think with the players in the Commission, I had the opportunity to work in the past, and it was always very professional. I think it is in good hand. I think we have a good chance to create win-win situations, and this is what we all want. So I thank you for your attention, and I would like to encourage you once again to maybe have a look at our homepage, thecirculary.eu. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcus, for those very inspiring and very strong words. You said circular economy can be a game changer and a job driver for Europe. And I think Business Europe is today showing a very strong commitment and support to the sustainable growth of jobs. But when we speak about jobs in Europe, we have to speak to the person who has the great responsibility of leading the policies for job, for social matters, for skills, for labor mobility. And we are delighted that today Marianne Thyssen accepted our invitation and is going to deliver her perspective for the purpose of green jobs. How do we promote these green jobs, these skills, these green skills we need in Europe? Mrs. Thyssen, you have the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dear Carmenu, dear Marcus, dear Director General, like the digital transformation, the greening of our economy significantly affects employment and skills requirements across Europe. New, with or without music, new green jobs will certainly emerge. Indeed, jobs data show that over the last 15 years, employment in the green economy across Europe grew by 49% compared to a growth of 6% in the economy overall. That's almost 1.4 million new green jobs. We've seen strong growth in particular in renewables, such as wind and solar power, of course, and in production of equipment and installations for heat and energy saving. In recent years, growth in the green economy has slowed, but importantly, it has kept pace with or even slightly ahead of job creation in other sectors. I am sure that Carmenu will talk you more about the data on employment in the environmental economy published this week. Looking to the future, as technology evolves, and we can expect that new green jobs will emerge. More than new green jobs, we might see stronger growth in existing occupations and industries which will experience greening. For example, a house builder must keep up to date with changes in building regulations, but the same builder has also an interest in learning how to use the latest green technology, whether heat conversion or smart home automation, in order to make their houses more attractive and their businesses more successful. In 2014, the European Commission launched the Green Employment Initiative. We set out actions to maximize job opportunities in the green economy. Today and yesterday, we have heard about the achievements of these actions, including on new data to better monitor labor market impacts of the green economy. But this is only part of the story. The greening of our economy also demands that people have the right skills to adapt to changes and to seize the new opportunities. The new skills agenda for Europe, launched over 1 year ago, focuses on boosting the quality and relevance of skills and qualifications across Europe and on improving skills intelligence. I would like to highlight one of the skills agenda's 10 actions in particular today. This is the blueprint for sectoral cooperation on skills. The blueprint will bring together business, trade unions, education and training institutions with other key stakeholders to examine skill gaps and their impact on growth, innovation and competitiveness, to develop sectoral skills strategies, and to update education and training curricula where needed. For all sectors, the blueprint places emphasis on the skills linked to a greener economy. The first 6 areas were announced last year and include sectors such as automotive and maritime technology, where greening is having a profound effect on the skills needed. We are now finalizing our plans for the next 6 sectors, and I hope that green technology and renewable energy will be among these. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, our work does not stop there. There are many examples of European Union support for the development of green skills, including with financing from the European Social Fund. For example, the Spanish Emplea Verde, or Green Jobs program. This program has mobilized 45 million euro and created or grown over 2,500 environmental companies, leading to 1,800 new jobs. Emplea Verde has also helped more than 60,000 people acquire green skills, including people from traditional sectors. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to commend the strong engagement of social partners on this topic. The valuable work that you are doing, especially at the sectoral level, is helping to ensure the greening of the economy as reality on factory floors and in offices across Europe. I also want to welcome today's joint statement of the cross-industry European social partners on tapping the potential from the greening of the economy for jobs creation. Ladies and gentlemen, the European Union Green Jobs Summit is an excellent forum to discuss the opportunities of a greening economy, to get inspired and to discuss practical ways that together we can support this transition to a flourishing and green economy. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for sharing with us such ambitious and inspiring ideas on the strategy and some concrete examples of projects which are working, and also commending the engagement of the social partners, which of course is essential to make a reality this green economy. Now, last but not least, to address and to give the final words before we formally close this second day, I have the pleasure to invite my boss, Commissioner Carmenu Vela, and to thank him for being with us today. Thank you very much.
Don't you believe it? I always do what he orders. So, colleague Marianne, Marcus, Daniel, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a packed 2 days with far too much to sum up in a few minutes that we have left. But I was entrusted to try and pull it all together, as it were, and sketch out some major takeaways from these 2 days in Brussels. And before I do that, my hearty thanks to all the participants. If these 2 days have been so filled with suggestions, comments, ideas. That's thanks to your valuable contributions and your unflagging enthusiasm. So the question is, what have we learned? What can we take away from the week so far? I have followed a number of sessions and learned a lot myself about green job trends, about opportunities, and about the challenges. And I have taken careful note, as I am sure that even my colleague Commissioner Tyson has done. And I've had my colleagues in the conference noting interesting developments and reporting back on all the sessions. Green Week is always a great opportunity for fresh input from the outside, and we listen very carefully to gauge the mood and to pick up on new ideas. And I will be drawing on some of these ideas and findings. The first thing to say is there is no shortage of inspiring examples. We've heard many instances of EU environmental policies that are creating green jobs, policies that are contributing to economic, sustainable, and socially responsible growth in the European Union. LIFE projects are leading the way. They are creating green jobs and they are helping train thousands of highly skilled, medium-skilled, and also lower-skilled workers. Nature conservation projects in particular make a big contribution to local employment in rural and also in disadvantaged areas, boosting territorial cohesion and social reinsertion. We have the wind in our sails. 2015 saw global investment of over 300 billion euros in the clean energy sector. That is 6 times more than in the year 2004. There are already 9 million jobs linked to the transition to the low-carbon economy. By 2030, that could be 18 million jobs. So we have to make the most of that momentum. We had reminders of the social reasons behind our environmental goals. Poverty and pollution go hand in hand, and you cannot tackle either effectively if you treat them separately. Green jobs are a way out of that. Green jobs can be very inclusive as well. We saw some wonderful examples of that. Yesterday, we even celebrated the amount of green jobs that Europe has to offer at the Green Awards, in everything from producing printable solar cells to making packaging from recycled bakery materials. Everyday tasks that show how green can really be for all of us. And a message for our public bodies. They need to be wary of institutionalized forgetfulness when they simply overlook their earlier commitments. Maybe priorities change. There is turnover of staff. For whatever reasons, they lose sight of their long-term objectives. Some of our goals are simply being ignored, and we cannot let that happen. Promises were made, and promises that were made should be kept. We also saw how the European Union's green economy has proven itself to be resilient and has maintained jobs in recent years. The European eco industry now employs over 4.2 million people. It is worth highlighting that this growth was maintained even during years of recession. But as we've seen this week, there is also cause for concern that green job creation appears to have slowed down. It's mainly a slowdown of job creation in management of energy resources, the result of increasing global competition, market consolidation, and generally sluggish economic growth. On the upside, the Commission's spring forecast shows that the EU economy has entered its 5th year of recovery, which is now reaching all EU member states, and this economic growth is translating into jobs. Now that the economic growth is picking up across Europe, and bearing in mind the outcome of the Paris Climate COP and the EU's own climate and energy targets, I have to say there is hope that strong growth will return to the energy sector. The job-generating potential of the green economy is very, very real. But in the context of the overall job market, the labor impacts are likely to be modest. And as we are talking about a new phenomenon, the full impact on the labor market cannot be predicted with certainty. Nonetheless, there will be net employment gains. This is obviously true in areas like renewable energy, recycling and waste management, organic farming, and sustainable transport. Finance will be the major enabler of the transition. Enormous amounts of investment are needed to facilitate the energy transition, to move towards a low-carbon future, to increase circularity and achieve sustainable development in its broader sense. We have seen how green investment has positive impacts on job creation. We also heard how the European Maritime and Fisheries Fund, the EMFF, is helping boost innovation, growth, and jobs also in the marine and maritime sectors. And we will focus more on that, hopefully tomorrow. We have heard about new opportunities, but we have also heard about risks. We need to manage the transition costs and the training needs of workers and regions that lose out. More green energy means less fossil fuels, and we cannot afford to abandon areas that are still recovering from previous industrial transitions. That brings us back to new skills, both for newly emerging jobs and to green existing ones. We have also heard about skills gaps and shortages, with SMEs particularly being affected. They form a clear obstacle to growth, and one that needs to be addressed with adjustments to training frameworks. We also need to improve when it comes to forecasting future skills demands. At the same time, these gaps are an opportunity and a clear indicator for young Europeans seeking to join new and useful occupations. The signposts are there, and I have no doubt that young people will follow. What they offer is a new green world of opportunity. My thanks again to my colleague Marianne for that very useful update on the skills agenda, but also, and most importantly, Marianne, for your continuous collaboration and support. It's great to see such ambitious forward thinking and such a joined up effort from inside the Commission. My thanks to our social partners, our essential interlocutors. You remind us of the need to work on a human scale and to focus less on jobs and more on people doing those jobs. My thanks especially to Marcus as well for the Business Europe's commitment, for the industry's viewpoint, and for the concrete examples presented. It's so important to keep our initiatives grounded in the solid realities of the business world, as that's where so much of the transitions will actually come about. Marcus, your input is extremely valuable, and I say this with all sincerity because without the private sector and without the social partners, all our ambitions for circular economy, for more green jobs, for sustainable growth will never become a reality. Tomorrow, we turn our attention to the blue economy with a look at the employment potential of Europe's maritime sector and the blue skills that will be needed to seize those opportunities. But I'd like to wrap up with two final thoughts. The first one is to do with continuity. It's great to come to conferences like this. The input is invaluable, and it's very inspiring to meet so many new people who are so focused on the agenda that Europe really needs. But I don't want anyone to leave thinking that Green Week is an isolated event. It's a great shop window, but it's very much part of a bigger process. It's part of our concerted effort to move to a greener, more circular economy. It's the agenda that we'll be taking up again in a few weeks in our follow-up on the Sustainable Development Goals and the Consensus on Development. The aim is to go far beyond aid to the developing world with an external investment plan that will foster sustainable growth. It's also the agenda that will be a focus in the Skills Week that Marianne will present in November, and it will feed into the new plastic strategy we will unveil at the close of the year. Let's not forget that the Sustainable Development Goals are not an agenda for developing countries. They are an agenda for the whole world. They are a global agenda, and that means Europe as well. As the last few days have shown, we are already doing a lot of work to get to SDG 8, Sustainable Economic Growth with Productive Work for All. And the second thought is related to that same goal, SDG 8. It's the idea of inclusive economic growth. If you forget everything else about Green Week, you should remember one thing, which has struck me repeatedly in the last few days, and that is, anyone can do a green job. There are many exciting new sectors opening up, but the bulk of the work won't be there. It will be in transforming the existing professions. It's not about white collar or blue collar, it's about moving to green collar. It's about greening those existing professions, getting that green know-how to people who already have the skills, but maybe lack that particular knowledge that will make all the difference. People want to change. Sometimes they just need a little help, a little push, and a little bit of know-how. And that's the real gap we need to target. I would like to close by thanking you all, not just for your presence here, but more so for your attention and contribution. Thank you very, very much.
And with the words of Commissioner Vella, I will add nothing to the message, to the powerful message he has given to us. We are now closing the second day. I think there are some practical announcements which will be made, because this is not the end. I think there is still some networking opportunities, and I think there's a cocktail that will be offered. But I would like to now, following what has been said, thank once more Commissioner Vella, Commissioner Thyssen, Markus Bader, and with their final message, the second day of the Green Week is now formally closed. Thank you.
Well, very brief, practical message. There's a cocktail waiting for you outside, so please join us. Thank you very much.